In today's video, I took a professional Rainbow Six Siege player, Drip Bullen, who plays for Beast Coast, and I had him coach me. Now, I had asked him a ton of questions that I felt that I was struggling with, as well as he helped me with a ton of issues that you guys were having that you guys told me on my recent post. So today, we're going to go over a ton of things like sensitivity, how to play more aggressive, how to play more consistent, everything that you can think of, we're going to be covering in this video of how to get better overall, and it's all going to be coming from a pro player at the highest level. So if you do enjoy this video, one, be sure to go check out Drip. I'll have his YouTube and socials down below, as well as be sure to leave a like on this video. If we get this video to 1,000 likes, I'll love you, and also subscribe. We're on the grind to 40k. But that being said, let's get into today's video. Yes, the questions that I have, I kind of figure out how to do it here. The questions that I have, like, even like at high play, like I play in like, on PC, I'm a diamond controller player. On console, I'm a champion controller player, but I still am struggling with two things that I find is very hard. It is being consistent is my one thing. Like, I think I struggle with the most is being consistent. Like, there's days when I'll like be like, well, like there's games where I'll play so well, and the next game I'll just be like absolutely terrible. Like, as a pro player, how do you find a way to be more consistent? Like, what do you notice? What do you do?
Well, you gotta. I think the first important thing to realize is there's no consistency in Siege. Like, the game has so many variables. You need to be. So, let me just take a step back. I think your most important skills you can have as a player are problem solving and adaptation, right? Like, my favorite team to watch right now in Pro League besides my own is Astralis. If you ever watch Astralis play, they always have a problem solver, and it's Forest. And I think that's your most important skill you can have as a player. So I think consistency can be implemented by just playing, a varied game. Don't do the same thing twice, even if it works. Just always be on your feet, always be ready to solve the problem. Usually when you're playing a defense, like, it's like chess. Like, they have a setup, and you need to solve the problem. So you need to just kind of like, if you need to do something different to change your gameplay up and find a kill, you need to do that. If you ever watch Charlotte's play, that Forrest is not scared to get off a hard breach up to play knocking in open space on the map, kind of thing.
I think a lot of people, even like for my tip videos, people always ask me like, "Hey, how do you play more consistent?" Like, some days I play really well, and some days I play bad. And even myself, like, I feel like a lot of stuff. Also, I don't know if it's the same way with you, but there's like times when like like nerves almost can like settle in. I don't know how did
I know
you
what
kind
you're
of like,
talking about.
yeah, like how did you deal with that? As you started to become a better player, especially at a pro play when there's so much pressure on you and there's so much anxiety, I guess you could say, or like expected of you something.
Well, a lot of it comes down to the teamwork, right? Like, you got to just trust your teammates. And I've always said in Siege, there's no bad plays. The only bad play is not doing a play with your team. So it's just like, to calm my nerves, I kind of realized like I just got to focus on communication and teamwork, because again, at the pro level, at least, everybody in Siege is so close in skill. Like, believe it or not, everybody in Bolo is pretty much on the same level. Like, that's
Yeah.
just how it is. So the difference between a lot of these games, I'm not saying all of them. There are people have step up games where they'll step up, but there are majority of games will come down to which team works better and which team has better executions and teamwork. They'll just, like I said, if you just work together as a team and know that's your objective going into the game, I think your nerves will settle. I think you'll like, you got to have like a purpose. You can't just go in with a million thoughts. You got to like have a plan. You got to have a execution. Like, you got to figure out how you're going to execute the plan. And I think that's how you calm your nerves, because I mean, you just got to like be ready. It's like doing your homework before a test, studying
Yeah,
before a test.
that
Like,
makes sense.
it's a lot easier to be prepared if you study than if you just don't do shit.
I feel like I struggle a lot. There'll be times when I'm streaming and I'm like playing, and I feel like my position, I'm dying because of my positioning. Like I'll like won't really get into a gunfight that is like I guess you could say like a fair gunfight, and it's always on me. It's like, oh shit, if I had better positioning, if I had, how do you go about like having like good positioning? I guess like a majority of the time, like, you know what I mean, like to where like you're in the best possible spot, or like you just know where to go. And I know it generally comes down to learning the map, learning the spots, using your surroundings. But like, how do you consistently have like good positioning? Like, if that makes any sense.
This answer is going to loop back to what I just said, but it's teamwork, right? Like, if you do a lot of solo plays in Siege, more times than not, against a well-prepared team, you're just going to get fucked. Like, you're just going to be caught out. You're going to be in bad situations. But if you work plays with your team, sometimes you can just be in a superior position. it doesn't even matter what op you're playing. I started off a game against TSM 9 and won this stage on support ops because it's just the positioning and teamwork, right? Like it's just one of those things where if you work with your team, and you're not left out to dry, like you're gonna succeed. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
op you are. It doesn't matter like who in the round you are, what your position is in the round, what post you're holding. It's just one of those things where it's like if you work as a unit, more than likely you'll find your kills, you'll find your objective, and you'll win the round just off that.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, what would you give tips to somebody who, for example, on console, there's not much really. I play PC and console, but the difference between console and PC, for the most part, what I've noticed, generally the same skill level, but does not teamwork as much on there. Especially a lot of people with solo queue, right? If you had to give a tip to like somebody who's solo queuing and trying to and can't really communicate with the team as much, unfortunately, because that's what console's like if you're solo queuing. With positioning in that terms, like based off a round, if you were solo playing and you didn't really have a team, like how do you find the right positioning? Do you base that off of where they're pushing from? Do you base that off of what's going, like who you're playing?
So like I said, you got to go into this with a plan and an objective. So if you're solo and you know you're solo, you got to play for yourself. You got to play selfish. So I would just play ops like Finka, Lion, shit like that, and save both my drones for myself, right? Like, again, going with the plan of you have to be selfish because your teammates are selfish. You're solo, like you got to be an asshole. But I think that's like when I solo queue ranked, which I do a lot, and I usually do win. Like it's just you got to just kind of like deafen, put your really focus up play ops. It'll really help you and help you get the edge. And even if like they like you can't really play a team-based op. You can't play Thermite if you're
Yeah, no.
solo queue and ranked with people running around. Like you will just die opening walls. You're going to be left on an island. It's one of those things. So like I think my advice is to, if people that are solo out there trying to work with their team and their team's not trying to work with them, is play universal ops, Lion, Dokubi, Finka. Just kind of like save your drones for yourself and play around that objective. Like have the plan, have that plan in your mind. Don't just kind of like run in blindly with something like Ayana, where it's best to work with a teammate because you're just gonna fail.
How do you know where to hold angles at, right? Like if you're like how do you know like where to hold angles and generally like when to get aggressive per se, right? Like
So
something that even I
like
struggle with too. It's like
yeah, so
when to be aggressive and passive.
it just comes down to like situations and teamwork. But I think the macro picture here is like on defense, it's called defense for a reason. Like the attackers have to initiate, they have to initiate the plan. They have to make a move. So like on defense, you will find kills a lot of the time in ranked if you just sit still. Like if you just sit in sight and sit in a corner, you will literally find kills because more than likely your roamers will die or go 1-for-1. And if you
Yeah.
just sit in a corner in sight, they'll funnel into you. Like that's just how the mechanics of the game work. Like your defense, you're holding down the position, they're gonna push into it. And attack, it's kind of the same thing in ranked. Defenders will always in ranked, at least like you'll always have that idiot Vigil or idiot Mozzie on the other team. They'll just find a way to funnel into you, whether you're doing something smart or stupid. So I think it's just a game of patience and like trying to outplay your opponent. Because I mean, like I said, in ranked, it's all patience. Like if you just wait the extra 20 seconds and hold an angle on defense, like they'll funnel into you. If you're on attack and you're holding a common rotate, more than likely, like you're gonna have a ranked player idiot just fucking full sprint into you and get the kills. So again, if you're holding an angle, you got to commit to holding it. Like don't be afraid to hold an angle for a minute. If you ever watch pro league teams play or anybody at a high level, like they're not afraid to hold position for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And get in. It's not like you need 5 kills to win the round. You could do your job, get 1 kill, and that could help your team win the round. Like I said, reviewing a full game is kind of hard because like I said, there's so many variables in Siege. Like it's just like it doesn't really show the true like skill of a player. I think like reviewing like clips is easier just
Clips.
because you
Okay,
see
yeah,
a
yeah.
wider variety.
Yeah, so let me see if I can get if I went to like a highlight video that I have on my channel. I don't really post too many clips anymore, but I can go live. I'm trying to think of my recent. These are obviously highlights, so it's gonna be the good stuff, like the better
Yeah.
stuff. But still, like, just
I
I
think
guess
it's better to look at what you do right than what you do wrong because you can repeat what you do right where what you do wrong. It's just kind of like I don't know. You don't want to keep looking at your mistakes.
All right. Here's a 1v5. We got a couple clips going on in here. This was me fighting for my life on Oregon, wanting to absolutely rip my hair out solo queuing. 'Cause most of these videos are solo queuing because that's just what it comes down to. But just let me know what you think of these clips. There's a bunch of them. This is a 1v5. This is I've gone over this clip a ton of times on my channel because I feel like I talk about positioning a lot in this one. Because I think this is why I was able to win this, was because of like pre-firing, positioning, using my surroundings, stuff like that. But
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like on defense and rank, like if you sit still, if you hold an angle, they'll run into you. You just got 3 free kills because people run at you, and it's like 1v5s in Pro League are almost impossible. I think there's only been like maybe less than 10 probably in 7 years, but like in rank they're just so common because people like I said, you just gotta on defense, you just gotta let them force the issue,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
kind of.
literally giving you kills right here.
I mean, this
People in the
makes
back,
yeah,
they're
John.
loud.
Yeah, John. I mean, it kind of makes sense to what you're saying because as you see here, I had 2 people swing me, and the one person at the plant, and then after I killed 2 people, like if they would have just held angles and waited for me to push them, they would have won. So I guess that
Yeah,
makes sense.
that guy plants and has 2 people cover. It's over.
Yeah. One of the biggest things in the console community is everyone's like always asking like what sensitivity to use, what to do this, like always changing sensitivity. How often do you change your sensitivity? Because that's something I always tell people like not really to do as much because I feel like you got to kind of gain the muscle
Yeah.
memory on sensitivity.
Well, that's common in PC too. People will be like, "Oh, well, I want to play what this guy plays. I want to play what Shaiko plays. I want to play what Pengu plays." Like that's stupid. Like I think you should just play your own sense. Like I don't think you should copy anybody else. If your sense happens to be their sense, that's fine. But like you just got to do whatever you're comfortable with. Like I haven't changed my sense, my keys in 4 years. Like I'll tell you when I switched to PC, I haven't switched a single key since then, which was in
Really?
2017, and it's really hard to like it's all muscle memory. Like I'll give you an example. I have a really bad habit of my scroll wheel is what I use to switch guns,
Yeah.
and I have a really bad habit of sometimes like I'll accidentally switch my gun in the middle of a gunfight. I even happened once to staging as X. I literally lost a 1v1 because I pulled out my pistol, and like I'm not gonna switch 4 years of like common muscle memory because I had one slip up, one fuck up, and I feel like that can still be applied to like anybody on console, PC, ranked anybody. Like if you have a bad round and miss an easy shot, it's not because of your sense, it's because it happens. I don't think it's like
Game changing where you need to like
yeah,
change the whole shit. Yeah. Okay, that makes
causation
sense.
is not correlation. Like it's just I don't think they're correlated at all. Sometimes you just miss your shots. Like
Yeah.
I don't think to reset all your muscle memory and everything over a bad game of Siege, a bad week of Siege is the right play. I think you'll get better over time practicing the same stuff over and over. Like, how often does Steph Curry change his jump shot,
Yeah,
because he has a
exactly.
bad game.
Yeah. No matter how many shots he misses, he's not gonna change his whole form and his whole like
Yeah.
layup and stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Your crosshair placement, how your swing stuff, because I feel a lot of people also struggle. A lot of people do struggle with crosshair placement.
I think it's worth noting that like all these content creators you see on Siege, they all have the bolo movement, the bolo aim. Like again, that's just not what you need to be good at the game. Like it helps, but like I can't. I'm not the greatest mechanical player. I'm still better than literally 99.999% of the players. But I was rated like top 15 in Pro League this stage, and it's because of my game, game sense, teamwork, and communication. It's not because I can bolo flick one tap stuff like that. And those kids a lot of the time are terrible players, right? Like at the end of the day, you just got to work with your team and have decent enough aim. But like the way I play T-Hunt is I just try to like I don't even know. I don't even play that much T-Hunt. Before I get on stage to play, I usually pop in a rank game, and I just kind of walk around the map. I mean, it's like I feel like playing a T-Hunt before is not going to make or break you. It's just kind of like getting mentally prepared.
Yeah, I think I've always said that myself. I always said doing a T hunt or doing a TDM is always just a mental way to reset and like kind of show yourself like, okay, my aim's good, I'm chilling, I'm good.
Yeah,
Like
it's
even though it
just
doesn't really change anything, but it still helps. I feel like for me at
yeah,
least, especially on a controller where there's a lot of inconsistencies on controller and versus like a mouse and keyboard where it's a lot easier. I feel like to aim around, which is why console's terrible because it's just like filtered with everyone on mouse and keyboard cheating. So
yeah.
I feel like it can definitely be hard, but I mean I don't
Like
really care if I control on PC.
this stuff I'm doing, like where I shoulder peek, like try to go for one taps, like that's just not how you play Siege. Like I'll never actually go in a game and try to do this. Like you'll get smoked. There's just no situations where it'll work. Like you just gotta like be ready to like just shoot your gun full automatic. Like going for one taps and T-Hunt to warm up for an actual game is just stupid to me. Like you just gotta
Yeah.
actually play like you would in a real game. You're not gonna like have the most perfect movement in an actual game and like try to look good for a clip. You're gonna try to win the game and go for kills. Like it doesn't matter how sloppy it looks. Doesn't matter like some of the best players in the world are not flashy at all. Like
Yeah, no, that makes
best player
sense.
in the world, in my opinion, is the farthest thing from a flashy player. Like if you know Palu on Team Liquid, like he's not
Yeah,
going around one tapping people. He's not like the most incredible movement. He just literally finds kills. He works well. He works well with his team. They set him up for great rounds, and he plays well off that. And it's not. And he's, like I said, he's not out here like I don't know, just one tap in like he's Bolo. Like, and Bolo's one of the best players in the world too, doing stuff like that. You can play both ways, but I think the Palu way, like, you know, is just another great way to like play Siege. You don't have to be like, oh, look at me, I can do this.
How do you build confidence? Like, right, like let's say like you're getting fucking smoked, or like you just are just like playing bad. How do you build that confidence back up to be able to the very next round go in and slam people, knowing you're versing people at such a high level? Something that I struggle with a lot is I'll be streaming, and those games that I'll do really good, and then like the next game I'll have like a bad game, and sometimes I do find it hard to be able to just immediately get back up and like perform at the same level, because it's kind of in the back of my head like, oh my god, I don't want to do bad, or what if I do bad? And like how do you get past that?
I mean, you can't think like that. Like, I know it's hard to not think like that, but you can't think like that. Like, you just have to go in confident. Like, again, Siege is such an inconsistent game where if you win 55% of your gunfights, you'll be one of the best players in the world. Like, so the best player in the world right now is Palu statistically, and he averages about 0.98 KPR, which is kills per round. So he doesn't even average a kill per round, and that shows like how hard it is to actually get kills, how hard it is to work in this game. Like, it's one of those things that just like you have to be confident, you have to realize the game you're playing, and you have to just be. You're never gonna have perfection in Siege. Like, there's just too many variables. There's too much inconsistency. You're never gonna be perfect. Like, you're just never. You can do better than others, and all you need to do is just win the game. It doesn't matter how you play as long as you win. Like, I've won games where I've gone 3-10. I've lost games where I've gone 15-5. Like, it's better to be on the winning end. Like, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I feel like something that a lot of console players struggle with, or like lower rank console players struggle with, is always asking me like, okay, like how do I get my KD up, or like they're worrying about their KD a lot. I feel like a lot of people tend to do that. Like, what do you think about KD overall and how it affects someone when they're playing or stuff like that? Like,
I mean, KD is just, it all comes up, it's chalk to what ops you play. I mean, again, KD doesn't matter. Like, you're hearing it from a pro player, you're hearing it from any pro player will tell you that. In ranked, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter, honestly, as long as you win the game. Like, most of the time in ranked, I personally troll, but like, as long as you just win your games, who cares what your stats are? Like again, it's the same thing in real sports. Like, as long as you're winning the games, it doesn't matter how many points you're scoring, how many rebounds you're getting. Like, it comes down to it is, are you getting elo at the end or not? Like, your KD doesn't matter. If you have a 1.6 KD because you play Ash but you lose 90% of the games, you're a shit teammate. You're a bad player. Like, in my opinion, you're a terrible player. I don't care how good you look on your montages. I don't care how this and that. Like, you're a terrible player, in my opinion. Anybody can run around with Ash solo bait and do this and that. Your KD doesn't matter. So to my console players and to low PC ranked players and anything like that, have a team-oriented mentality and you'll do well in the game. But if you have a mentality like that, you're gonna fail.
hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. It did feel really good on my end, to be able to ask somebody what I do struggle with, because I always give tips to you guys, but I loved hearing tips for myself, stuff that I struggled with, stuff that I still do struggle with. It was good to know the answer to and just hear what they had to, or he had to say. But be sure to go check out Drip. Once again, I'll have his YouTube down below. Also, be sure to sub. We're in the grind to 40K. I love you. Mwah.